No, screw her. Let her go. No. Alberto, please help me now. A young man full of insecurities dreams of killing his father Guido, a tyrant who thinks he owns everything. When he gets the chance to do it and run away with the woman of his dreams, something terrible happens, and his true personality is revealed. But let's start at the beginning, a little while before everything blows up. This story takes place in Italy during the 1930s, right in the middle of the fascist period. And in that context, filled with violence and hatred, Alberto lives with his family on an estate that belongs to his aunt Floriana, a retired opera diva. One afternoon, he overhears a cruel conversation between his parents. Guido insists that Alberto is a weak boy, that something is wrong with him, and he directly blames the mother for having spoiled him too much. This isn't an isolated argument. In fact, it's a recurring issue. At that moment, Aida, the maid, brings a tray of food to Alberto's room. The gesture is simple, but there's something more between them. There's a mutual attraction. There are no explicit words, just glances that last a second longer than necessary. That same day, something serious happens. Alberto looks through a photo album he shouldn't be seeing in his parents' room. When his mother comes in, he hides behind the curtains, almost instinctively. Guido comes in after her and, without saying a word, forces her to have sex without her consent. He doesn't know his son is there, or he simply doesn't care about committing such an atrocity in front of him. That's why, without anyone noticing, Alberto packs a suitcase and tries to run away. There are no speeches, no goodbyes, just the urgency to escape after witnessing something so horrible. But Elisa, his younger sister, discovers him and tells Guido, who chases after him on horseback, laughing and calling him a clown, as if his son's desperation were a joke. Alberto doesn't manage to escape and is forced to return to the house. But that's not all. Guido chases him and beats him brutally in front of the women of the family. Alberto doesn't defend himself or run away. He stands still, enduring every blow. His mother and Elisa cry inconsolably. It is Floriana, the aunt and owner of the house, who finally intervenes and orders him to stop. At that moment, something important is revealed. This is the third time Alberto has tried to escape from that prison called home. Guido's violence isn't limited to the home. He also has problems with alcohol and spends his nights in brothels. That night, a terrible storm cuts the power in the house. In the darkness, Floriana leads Alberto to his room and gives him a tarot card reading. But the closeness between them hides something darker. Through glances, the conversation drifts toward a strange intimacy that both allow until they fall asleep. Alberto dreams that he kills Guido, and perhaps his dreams are quite close to his desires. In the morning, he talks with Floriana again, and it becomes clear that what happened during the night was not an isolated incident. It has happened before. Alberto courts her. As twisted as it sounds, he truly trusts her. That's why he asks her for help to escape, but Floriana replies that she has already tried to help him, paying for his medical school, which he ultimately dropped out of. Frustrated, he goes out for a walk, and that's when he catches Guido in the storeroom, taking advantage of another woman. This time it's Aida, who tries to get away but can't. Far from intervening, Alberto throws a stone through the window and simply runs away. Later, Alberto approaches Aida while she's working and confesses that he saw what happened. This sparks his imagination and he tries to have sex with her, but the situation is interrupted by a call from Guido. Alberto leaves immediately and runs into his father, who demands that he accompany him to town. During the trip, he receives all kinds of criticism for having dropped out of school, for doing nothing, and for not being with women. However, he listens with indifference since he hates him and doesn't try to hide it. And just when it seems like things can't go any further, Guido tricks him into going to Zaida's place, a prostitute he's known for a long time, to introduce him to her world. Alberto goes in without understanding what's going on. The woman tries to seduce him, making him so desperate that he ends up vomiting and then runs away as far as he can. What happened affects him so much that, when he returns home, he falls ill with a fever. And this is where everything becomes even more disturbing. In his delirium, he dreams that he kisses his mother romantically. In a family where everything is broken, even desire becomes disordered. While Alberto is recovering, Guido enters Floriana's room to ask her for money. She refuses. She knows that any amount she lends him will be spent on alcohol and prostitutes. The argument quickly escalates and Guido tries to assert his power in the only way he knows, by having sex with her, but he fails. Floriana is the only woman in the house who holds real power. The house is hers, the money is hers, and Guido depends on her. Humiliated, he leaves. Deep down, he is sustained by what he despises: women. The next morning, Aida gives Alberto his medication, who is now almost fully recovered. In an awkward and inappropriate gesture, he tries to have sex with her again, but this time Aida clearly refuses. At that very moment, they hear the arrival of Gloria, Alberto, and Elisa's cousin, who is visiting the estate. That day, Guido catches Alberto spying through the peephole at Elisa and Gloria as they dance and have fun. In front of both women, he scolds him in a humiliating way, deepening even further the hatred the young man feels for his father. That's why Alberto's behavior becomes increasingly defiant. He decides to lock himself in his room and bolts the door, letting no one in. After this behavior, his mother fears he is losing his mind, but Guido reduces him to a single word: useless. At that moment, Gloria, who still doesn't know the ordeal that awaits her during her visit, silently observes the family's toxic dynamic. But she's not a naive girl either. As soon as she gets the chance, she enters Alberto's room and talks with him about childhood memories, until their closeness leads to a mutual confession. They are attracted to each other. Gloria's presence excites Alberto so much that in order to spend more time together, he decides to have dinner at the family table that night, something he always avoids. During the after-dinner conversation, something important happens. Floriana is left alone with Gloria and Alberto and reveals a decisive piece of information to them. They are the sole heirs to her fortune. The large estate will belong to the two of them, her favorite nieces and nephews. The next day they spend time together and their bond quickly intensifies. They kiss and share an honest conversation, during which Alberto reveals something crucial. As long as Guido is alive, he will never be able to feel free. The dream of murder stops being just a nightmare and becomes a recurring thought, hard to silence. Later, they gather with the family and dance with friends and acquaintances. In the midst of the fun, Alberto notices a closeness between Gloria and another young man. The situation stirs up his jealousy. To avoid it, he turns off the music without any explanation, but the gesture doesn't end there. With a competitive attitude, he starts a political debate with the young man, in which he openly expresses his rejection of the war. This causes him to be labeled a coward in front of everyone present. Unfortunately, Guido hears every word. He is completely disappointed. His son is not only weak, he also dares to challenge the fascist ideology that the family upholds. Let us remember that at that time, Italy was under a dictatorship led by Mussolini, and this anti-democratic regime saw war as something noble. For this reason, thinking differently was considered a threat. But let's continue. When the house falls silent, Gloria meets with Alberto to talk in private. She confesses that she loves him and wants to take him with her to Milan, but even though he is also in love, Alberto fears that his father will not allow him to leave the estate. For that reason, he has a plan. From a drawer in his room, he takes money he has stolen and a revolver to kill him. After talking with Gloria, he holds the gun in his hands, looks out his window, and watches Guido with contempt. He doesn't want to kill him to escape, but to take revenge for all the harm he caused. His contempt is so great that, with a smile on his face, he fires 6 shots, though he misses every single one. Instantly, Guido comes in to look for him, and they get into a violent fight. Alberto points the unloaded gun at him while repeatedly threatening to kill him. He is no longer the submissive child from the beginning. Now, he is someone capable of inspiring fear. But his father knows he wouldn't dare to shoot, so he fights back until he manages to take the revolver from his hands and leaves. The situation inside the estate becomes extremely tense after what happened, to the point that Guido decides Alberto must be locked up, since he has become a dangerous person. It's ironic that these words come from the mouth of this monster, and the worst hasn't even happened yet. Meanwhile, Gloria talks with Elisa, who confesses something terrible. The family plans to commit Alberto to an asylum in a few days. There's no time left to think, it's time to act. Gloria meets with him and insists they escape to Milan before it's too late. She tells him that Floriana knows about it and will even give them money so Alberto can resume his medical studies. Unfortunately, Guido overhears the conversation and bursts in, since he can't allow a woman to have more power over his son than he does. Gloria shows her courage by accusing him of being violent and a bad person, but this leads to something tragic. Guido physically assaults her, going so far as to take advantage of her in front of his son. This atrocity is the true breaking point. Gloria asks Alberto for help, but he decides not to intervene. He remains motionless in the face of the situation, even when his mother and Floriana try desperately to open the door, because they can hear what's happening inside. Guido leaves as if nothing happened and continues his fit of rage. He walks through the garden with a loaded rifle, furious. While firing into the sky to assert his power, he shouts that he is the king of the house and that all women deserve what they get. Aida, who is just a few meters away, quickly escapes. There's no turning back. What they thought was love has been shattered. Gloria packs her bags and leaves immediately. She runs into Alberto as she's leaving, but she can't even look at him. She leaves forever. At the same time, the women of the family are gathered in Floriana's room as she gets ready for her birthday dinner, which will be held that night. Aida comes in to tidy up, and Floriana brings her into the women's gathering. They all exchange knowing glances. They have a plan. During dinner, Guido gets drunk and becomes even more unpleasant with his comments and shouting, but the others listen in silence, paying him no mind. Floriana proposes a toast for her birthday and lets slip something that will later make sense. Today, Alberto will become a man. The celebration is over and Guido is alone in the dining room, sleeping drunk in his chair. At that moment, Aida comes in and clears the dirty dishes from the table, but deliberately drops a glass. The sound of shattering glass wakes Guido, who realizes he is alone with Aida. Immediately, he asks her to fill his wine glass and follows her to the cellar. There, his wife Floriana, Aida, and Alberto are waiting for him to carry out the plan. While Guido laughs maliciously, as if the whole world belonged to him, Floriana puts a rope around his neck and they hang him, staging a scene. But something unsettling happens during the murder. Alberto runs to his father to embrace him in his final seconds of life. Minutes earlier, Floriana had told him that he would become a man. But it didn't mean killing. It meant letting the women take action. The real change happens without him as the protagonist. While he dreamed of ending his father, it was the women who carried it out, showing that the decision doesn't always come from a desire for revenge, but from the need to put an end to the horror.